On this episode, let's talk about Kegels, or as I like to refer to it, root training, some of the basics, a couple of important principles, and most importantly, what is really the simplest and most effective approach to this whole idea.
This is the Holistic Alpha Podcast, where you unlock your potential and elevate your life on a foundation of empowered, sacred sexuality.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I'm Stephen Mathis, or welcome to the show for the first time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for including me in your day. If we have just crossed paths, or if you're just checking out the podcast for the first time, or if you're just not already subscribed, subscribe so you get future episodes of the show. The best place to do that is Spotify. You can watch either video or audio, depending on whatever's working for you in the moment. Let's talk about Kegels, reverse Kegels, as I like to refer to it, root training. So we're going to cover a few basics, a couple of very important principles to keep in mind, and then kind of bring it all together into the big picture, which is really the simplest, most effective approach to this whole idea of strengthening, relaxing, having an effective and healthy pelvic floor that serves you not only in your sexual life, but in your life overall, because it does serve us in our life overall. It is a very, very important part of our body. It's important energetically. One of the things that I've often talked about when it comes to a root, and by the way, I really like that term because it is in a lot of ways, you see this tree behind me, it is in a lot of ways our kind of root that taps into that something that gives us this energy, excuse me, and this power. It is in a lot of ways our root. It's also what really connects us to the earth. It's kind of what bridges the gap between our upper and lower body. And if we include from our pelvic floor on down to our feet, it is in a very physical kind of way, our root to the earth. So whether you call it Kegels, reverse Kegels, we'll talk about the difference there in just a minute. Or as I like to often call it, a root squeeze or a root push. Whatever you call it and however you approach it, it matters. It matters physically in our body. The structural health of your body is dependent upon a healthy pelvic floor. Over time, your urinary health, so many things are dependent upon a healthy pelvic floor. It really, really matters. So let's talk about a couple of basics. Again, a couple of kind of key principles to keep in mind, and then bring it all together. So basics, first of all, Kegel, reverse Kegel, root squeeze, root push. Those are two different ways, rather four different ways of kind of referring to the same thing. So on the one side, we have the squeezing, contracting action, which is what is often referred to as Kegels. If you look online in various places, more often you'll hear those talked about when it comes to women. I have no idea why, because we're all humans. We all have a pelvic floor. It is absolutely critical to us as men. Of course, there are people that talk about it, but if you just think about, oh, Kegel, what is a Kegel? You squeeze that muscle, just do a bunch of those and you're going to be good. It's totally not the way that it works. A lot of guys with the best intentions end up kind of going down paths that are not that effective. But first of all, let's clarify that terminology. So on the squeeze or engaging kind of side, we have Kegel, or as I often refer to it, and if you go back in previous episodes, you'll hear me refer to it, a root squeeze, right? This is where we're contracting that muscle. If you were to be urinating and stop that flow, that's the muscle that you're going to use. By the way, in terms of how you connect your mind to that muscle, we're going to dive a little deeper on that in a much more effective way. But the basic way to think about it is if you're going pee and you stop midstream, you're going to have to squeeze your root muscle. You're going to have to, in essence, do a Kegel. Or if you have to go pee and you haven't been able to find your way to a bathroom yet, you're going to have this kind of automatic squeeze. A lot of guys also, which again, we're going to kind of come back to when it comes to the health of this area, a lot of guys have kind of a consistent all the time kind of tension and squeeze that is in this muscle. And I'm going to call it a muscle. It is not a single muscle. It's a bunch of different muscles that really make up our pelvic floor, all the way from your sacrum, which is at the root of your spine, all the way to the base of your penis, and actually these muscles that wrap around the penis. There's all these different muscles that make up the pelvic floor. But for simplicity's sake, let's call it the root muscle, right? So a lot of guys are carrying tension in that or squeezing it kind of unconsciously very often that is very detrimental, not only to the health of that area long term, it's also detrimental to things like your sexual control, your ability to have stamina and last when you're having sex or when you're in your edging sessions. So that kind of not even thinking about it, automatic kind of squeeze and tension, not a good thing. We want to avoid that. However, we do want to build up strength on that squeeze side. So Kegel, root squeeze. On the other side, we have reverse Kegel or root push, two different ways of referring to the same thing, which is, again, that root muscle, for simplicity's sake. A root push or a reverse Kegel is the opposite, right? So if you were like peeing outside, you're in the mountains. I love peeing outside, by the way. If you're peeing outside and you were trying to like pee farther and kind of like push that out, or if you're trying to push out a fart or something like that, there's a couple different ways to think about that. Those are two good ways if you're brand new to this idea to help you kind of tune into it. But it's the opposite, right? On the one side, we have the squeeze and the contraction. On the other side, we have the push. And on the push side, it's not really as important to develop a significant amount of strength on that side. What is important is the ability to consistently, reliably, and actually is kind of an automatic thing, be a little bit on that side of things where we're relaxed, we're right in the middle, or we have that ability to easily go to kind of that push side of things, because that's where we have better control. That's where we can find a place of relaxation as we come back to it throughout the day, which we'll talk about more in a minute. So those are the two sides, right? That's the kind of terminology to be aware of. Now, there's a couple of principles that we need to talk about that are very, very important. First is, let's clarify strength and training and squeezing and making this thing stronger versus relaxation. Both are important. Like, is it important to be strong or flexible? Both, right? If you're going to just think about your body overall, would you want to be really, really strong, but incredibly tight and inflexible? No. Would you want to be really, really flexible, like the world's bendiest dude, like Gumby or something, and not have any strength at all? No, you wouldn't want that either. What helps us feel the best and brings us the best health in our life is a balance of the two, having strength, having relaxation and flexibility. That's what we want to have in our pelvic floor, in our root. We want to have that balance of strength as well as relaxation. And most importantly, this is kind of the second real principle, is that it is very important that the relaxation is the resting point. That's what we come back to. So yes, it is valuable to practice that squeeze and contraction side. It is valuable to have strength in that, right? One of the basic reasons is strong muscle leads to more blood flow. Stronger root, stronger pelvic floor leads to more blood flow in that entire area, which, as you can imagine, leads to good things in both your sexual life and in your life overall. We're going to talk about a couple of different aspects of that, by the way, and kind of in terms of kind of how to incorporate this, as well as the benefits that it brings to our overall life, not just our sexual life. So do we want to have a strong root? Yes. Do we want to have a relaxed root? Yes. That's the first principle to be aware of. This is not a squeeze, squeeze, squeeze more and more and more, and that's going to be the magical solution to everything. No, it is, let's train the squeeze side, let's have the strength, and let's also have the relaxation. And then the second key principle is the relaxation is the place you come back to. The relaxation is the thing you remind yourself of. The relaxation is the foundation, the grounded thing that you rest in moment to moment when you're not actively and for a very good reason engaging that squeeze side. One thing that we want to avoid with our root muscle is these unconscious kind of squeezes. This is a big thing when it comes to stamina and having control. If you tune into this, especially if maybe you just found the show, or you're not really familiar with any of these ideas at all, or you're kind of earlier on in the journey, one thing that you may be very well aware of if you start to pay attention is that often throughout the day, you're squeezing this root without thinking about it at all. It might just happen throughout the day, no matter what's going on. It might happen anytime you have sort of a sexual thought or some kind of thought that arouses you. That might be the automatic reaction, right? Whatever the reason, if your root is squeezing when you're not specifically directing it to and intending it to with that mind-body connection, if it's just kind of doing it on its own, that is a huge red flag to you to develop better control of that muscle. It's like doing its own thing. It's like a wild stallion that doesn't really serve you because it's just, right? You got to rein that thing in. So as it relates to that, the thing is to be aware of it, to just start to be aware of when is it squeezing automatically. You think about your partner, your girlfriend, the woman you're talking to on an app, the woman you're going to go on a date with, or you're just walking around everyday life. You start to notice, oh, it's like squeezing. I'm not thinking about it. Why do I need to squeeze that right now? There's no good reason for me to be doing that. In fact, there's a very good reason to avoid those unconscious automatic kind of squeezes. And really the way to do that is just be aware of it. And when you're aware of it, that it's like, oh, I'm holding tension there, it's squeezing automatically, you just come back to a place of intentional relaxation. So we've got some basics, we've got a little bit of a foundation, we've got a couple of key principles to keep in mind. Before we bring it to kind of the simplest, most big picture and actually most effective way to approach this, let's first talk about training and routines and workouts, because this is something that comes up. It's something that I've kind of talked about here and there in various ways. Something that comes up in a lot of guys' minds is, okay, I want to train my root muscle. Give me a program, right? Give me a exact plan to follow when it comes to root training. We can do that. We can absolutely do that. We can go into exact numbers and routines, right? Let's do a very, very basic version of that here. First thing is, if you're going to have, a session, let's say you're driving, that's a good place to do it, especially once you get familiar with it. You don't have to really think about it. It can kind of be this sort of under the under the surface kind of awareness. You're driving, you're sitting in your office, you're sitting at home. You can do it while you're walking. It's a little trickier to do it while you're walking. You will likely find, in fact, that sitting is going to be where you are most able to connect your mind and your awareness and your control with those muscles. There's something about kind of that pressure of sitting where it helps you be more aware of it, because it's like being pressed on, right? So whenever it is, whatever circumstances, you're having a workout, you want to do a Kegel workout, right? First thing is, you want to train both sides. You want to train the squeeze, you want to train the push, right? So don't do a Kegel workout where you just squeeze, 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 and that's it, and you go about your day. That's not going to help you. It's going to get things out of balance, in fact, and it may actually be detrimental to things like your control and your stamina, right? So the first thing, if you're going to program a workout or think about a workout for yourself, a very specific one, is you want to do both sides, right? This is kind of like if you were thinking about your arms and your upper body, right? I know a lot of you guys are training, maybe lifting weights, doing something like that. Hopefully you are doing some kind of physical training. If we think about our upper body, one way we can divide that and think about it is push and pull. We don't want to do all push or all pull. We're going to get really, really out of balance. We want to do both. Same thing with your root muscle. So you got to do both. The other thing, and by the way, I'll give you like some specific numbers here in just a minute, and timing and things like that you can experiment with if you would like that. The other thing, when you're programming a workout per se, we're going to move beyond that, by the way, to a much better, simpler level that's in some ways more advanced, in some ways more simple, but you may have a desire to kind of very specifically think about it. I know for a lot of guys that kind of works better, right? So the first thing is you want to do both, and I would have an equal amount of both on the squeeze side, on the push side, or the relaxation side. If you feel like you're out of balance to one side, where you really have very, very little strength, for example, like it's very hard for you to even feel any strength in your root muscle. Your erections, your libido is a challenge. It feels weak. You may want to do actually more on the squeeze side, the engagement side. If you struggle with stamina and control, you may want to actually do more on the push side. So maybe like a 2-to-1. So if lasting longer is a big concern for you, when you're doing a specific routine like this, you might want to do a 2-to-1 ratio of the push or the relaxation side versus the squeeze side. So first, do both sides. Second, think about how much you're doing on both sides. The next thing is timing. We want to train different lengths of holds or different lengths of kind of engagement. So what I mean by that is, if we think about the squeeze side, the Kegel side, you want to train very quick, like a 1 second on, 1 second off, 1 second on, 1 second off. You want to train that kind of a squeeze. You want to train in the middle, let's say 5 to 10 seconds. And then you want to train the long hold as long as you can, right? Effectively. So on both sides, that's the next thing in terms of programming a specific workout, is train different lengths of holds: short, medium, long. So that's kind of the framework, right? If you're going to do a specific training session, you do both the squeeze side and the push side or the relaxation side. You different lengths of holds: short, medium, long. There's a couple different ways to do this in terms of whether you go squeeze and then you alternate to push. For example, you do all the sets of short squeeze and then you do all the sets of short push and then so on. Or you do all the squeeze stuff and all the push stuff. There's no right answer. Do whatever feels right to you. Experiment with both. Test, F around and find out, that kind of thing, right? So for example, if you are beginning this kind of idea, you might do something like the following. If you think about, let's say 7 to 10 reps of each one on each side. So you do 7 to 10 short squeezes where you squeeze that muscle, intentionally relax it, squeeze it, intentionally relax it, squeeze it, intentionally relax it. You do 7 to 10 short ones. Then you do 7 to 10 medium length ones. Then you do a smaller number of longer ones. Let's say 3 or 4, right? So that would be a very simple, effective routine that you could think about. If you're going to do kind of a one-to-one where you're going to balance the squeeze side and you're going to balance the push side where they're kind of even and you don't feel like you need to accentuate one side or the other, you might do something like one set, 7 to 10 reps of quick squeeze, relax, quick squeeze, relax. And then 7 to 10 medium length, 5 to 10 seconds, hold on the squeeze, relax for 5 to 10 seconds, hold on the squeeze for 5 to 10 seconds, relax, and then so on with the longer ones, right? So that's a very, very basic routine. Now, if you're more advanced, if you have a stronger root muscle, you're going to want to do more than that. It's probably not going to be enough to really move the needle for you. But let's talk about what is really the best way to approach this whole idea, and that is to move beyond the idea of a specific sort of training session like, oh, I'm going to do Kegels in this moment, right? Sure, you can do that. You can have those individual periods of the day where you very specifically focus on it. But the best approach is to just have an awareness of it throughout the day and to engage it throughout the day effectively, right? So there's going to be some times, for example, when you're working out. I had a recent episode talking about engaging your root muscle when you're training very specifically. I'll link that down below, maybe a few other episodes about this kind of topic as well. So the best way is to engage it throughout the day. So when you're training, you're engaging that squeeze when you're in the exertion part of an exercise, and then you're intentionally relaxing it. A couple different ways to approach that. Again, you can check out that episode for more details. But not just your workout, when you're going throughout everyday life, you're at work, you're driving, you're walking, you're at home in your home life, whatever it is, want to have kind of this baseline awareness of what is going on with your root. The same way you might have about your posture. Think about if you were going to approach your posture where you're like, okay, I'm going to really commit to being aware of my posture throughout the day. I'm going to, if I find myself having poor posture, I'm going to remind myself and I'm going to get back in better posture. That's really the approach to posture, by the way. You can do strengthening exercises and things like that. Ultimately, it comes down to being consistent moment to moment throughout the day and day to day in that better posture. Same thing with your root muscle. You can do those individual training sessions, but ultimately, what is most effective is to have that awareness throughout the day and to be training it throughout the day, day to day, right? So if you have that awareness and you also have the intention and the awareness to focus on strength and build that strength, what is that going to look like? Well, it's going to look like throughout the day, you're going to kind of be aware of that. You're going to realize, oh, am I kind of holding some tension there? That's going to be a very, very common thing for most of you guys. For most of us, that's kind of the default. We need to get out of that automatic tension place and come back to a place of relaxation. So it's going to look like throughout the day, you're going to kind of be aware, oh, am I squeezing it? Am I relaxing it? And then also throughout the day, when you have the opportunity, you're going to train that squeeze side. You're going to train the very intentional relaxation side, train that kind of slight push. A couple last notes on this before we wrap up this episode. One, on the relaxation side, massage and massage guns can be very, very beneficial here. In fact, I would highly, highly recommend that you incorporate one or both of those things. If you are at all familiar with physical training, working out in the gym, you're familiar with the idea that recovery is key, especially if you're getting older, right? If you're like 18 years old, you're like, recovery? Well, I don't need to recover. Seem to like go to McDonald's and eat a bunch of quarter paddles. I'll be fine, right? That doesn't work as you get older. As you get older, recovery becomes more and more important. Recovery, when it comes to your root, your pelvic floor, very, very important. Rest is one of those things, right? So you do want to take rest days, just like you wouldn't want to do heavy, deadlifts every single day. You don't want to do heavy squeeze training on your root every single day without any rest whatsoever. You want to take some rest days from that kind of stuff. The other thing, again, is massage and massage guns. So this is not an area of our body that we can stretch out. Like, how are you going to stretch your pelvic floor? You can do things like an ancestral squat where you're in a very deep squat that will actually kind of stretch out your pelvic floor to some degree, but not completely. Ultimately, the best way to actually get in there and relieve that tension is with massage. So either manual massages with your hands or with a massage gun. I freaking love massage guns. It has become probably my most important recovery tool, not only for this area of my body, but for my entire body. Obviously, with a massage gun, you're going to want to be gentle. There's no need, whether it's manual massage or the massage gun, there's no need to overdo that kind of stuff. You can overdo that just like you can overdo the training side, right? But either one of those, manual massage with your hands or a massage gun, it will allow you to really explore and get into and release a lot of that tension that has built up. And if you have a lot of these kind of automatic squeezes all the time, or if you just know that you carry some tension, a lot of guys are very well aware of the fact that they carry excess tension in their pelvic floor. Sometimes it may even be painful. If that is true for you, massage those areas. It will help so much. Make massage a regular practice. So the basic version of that, use your fingers, use your hands, go on the front, kind of the front of your pubic bone. Like if you think about going from your lower abdominals in the center, as well as out to your hip bones, go from there down towards your cock and those areas. And then you want to kind of think about the other side as well, of course, right? So your perineum area, all those areas kind of around the anus, like where your hamstring connects up really, really deep, where your glute connects up really, really deep. Those very deep kind of areas on the underside, very important areas to do this kind of massage with as well. So that recovery will make a huge difference in how well this whole thing goes for you in terms of training this part of your body, improving it. And especially if you have any kind of pain or tension down there, you want to focus on the relaxation side. You want to focus on massage, make it a regular thing. Just like if you had a really tight bicep or whatever, you can release that tension, but it's not going to happen instantly. You're not going to massage for 3 minutes and you're going to be like, oh, all the tension in my pelvic floor is gone. No, what you're going to do ideally is you're going to incorporate massage into your daily practice. My favorite way to do that is to do it when you have your edging practice. So if you have a mindful edging practice, incorporate massage into that, right? Because that's when you'll have the opportunity to do it. So if you're driving, for example, and you're kind of doing some of this root training, you're probably not going to be able to like massage in that moment. That probably wouldn't be safe. Or if you're doing it in other circumstances, you may just not be able to do that. If you're having a mindful edging practice, that is a time when you're going to be able to get in there and massage that area. I would also encourage you to do it any other time you think about it. It's like you're laying there at night before you go to bed. Give it a few minutes of massage. You'll be amazed at what consistency will do when it comes to the relaxation, the massage, all of that kind of stuff. You can't do some huge amount of work in releasing tension in one day. What you can do is really just a small amount, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that, of massage, of intentionally releasing that tension. You do that consistently, and you're going to find a whole different level of relaxation. You're going to find a whole different level of performance in how that area of your body shows up for you. You're going to find a whole different level of health. I can promise you that just focusing on, oh, I'm going to squeeze, 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 squeeze all the time, that will lead to major issues, not only in your sexuality, but in your overall health. The relaxation is absolutely key. So let's sum this up, right? The big idea is, I promise you, I have had much experience in my own life with clients, with friends, doing very, very intentional training, right? Using the app. I've talked about an app before. There's an app called Stamina, Stamena. If you're on iOS, if you want to follow an app and have some timing, you can do that. I've done that. I've done that a lot, actually. I've used that app a lot. I've done a lot of intentional training sessions. I still do at times. But ultimately, the next level, and it's not only the next level, but it's actually the simplest thing to do. So instead of overcomplicating it and thinking about, oh, well, I got to do this amount and figuring out these exact numbers, like if that feels good to you and you really want to write that down and do that, go for it. But ultimately, if you actually just practice over and over again, coming back to having a consciousness and an awareness of what is happening in this part of your body throughout the day, and engaging it in a very intentional way throughout the day. So any moment, whether it's a workout or anything else, any moment that you want to tune into your greatest strength, your greatest kind of like energetic power, engaging a squeeze, a root squeeze, a Kegel in that area will help you in the moment tune into your greatest energetic force, right? So if you're doing something like a deadlift, you're going to find you're actually going to have, and if you're doing any other kind of workout, you're in the exertion part. You're going to find that you have more strength, more stability in your whole body if you're engaged in that pelvic floor. In fact, there's things like Pilates, especially. There's other disciplines as well, but Pilates in particular, a huge part of the most basic Pilates training is actually in engaging the pelvic floor. It's engaged pretty much all the time if you're doing a Pilates exercise. And by the way, side note, I'm not going to go into details. Pilates is freaking awesome. It was invented by a guy, Joseph Pilates, for men specifically, even though there's a lot of women that do Pilates, kind of gets lumped in with yoga. It was actually invented by like a strongman dude for other men. So Pilates is freaking awesome. So whether you're doing that, you're going throughout your day, engage that area of your body in a squeeze kind of action when you want to carry that strength. Otherwise, come back to over and over and over again, a place of relaxation, a place of letting go of the tension, massaging it, all of those things, right? I hope that this has helped bring this idea to some points of clarity for you, because it is a very, very important thing. You might be thinking about any other aspect of your sexual health, and in fact, other aspects of just your energetic health. Your pelvic floor is a key part of that. So training it, having a healthy pelvic floor, a healthy root that is both strong and relaxed, that is under your control, that you squeeze when you want, that you relax when you want, that comes back to a place of default relaxation when you're not intentionally squeezing it. Putting these different pieces together is a huge, huge win in your life. I promise you that when you have a stronger root, you will feel stronger. You will just feel more energetic. When you have a stronger and more relaxed root, and a root that is within your control, you're going to have much better sex. You're going to have better control. And again, last note before we wrap up, if you are especially focused on stamina and having control, do not underestimate the importance of practicing not the squeeze side, but the other side, the push, the relaxation. And a reminder, I mentioned this earlier, but reminder on the push side, there's no need to like push really, really hard. What we really want to do on that side is we want to get very good at getting into a slight kind of push to come back across that midpoint of relaxation a little bit to the push side, because that actually is what helps us come back to the place of relaxation. Ultimately, we got to kind of, it's like a tug of rope, or right? Tug of war. Sometimes words are such an interesting thing. Brains are an interesting thing. The human experience is. It's like a tug of war, right? So we got to bring things back a little bit. On that push side, that's what we really want to focus on, is actually the control, where in any individual moment, whether it's a random moment in the day, it's a moment you're particularly aroused because of something that you see or think about, or you're having sex, or you're in your edging practice, or whatever it is, we want to get to the place where not only is the relaxation kind of our baseline that we come back to, but we can instantly relax and come back to that place of relaxation. It will be a total game changer in your control when you can do that. So if you're wanting to have better stamina, I would do like a 2-to-1 on kind of the push side, so you can develop more of that mind-body connection on the push side. That's what it really comes down to. It's not about strength. Again, on the relaxation, it's really connecting your mind and your body on a regular and consistent enough basis so that it rests in that place of relaxation because you've trained it to do so, and so you can come back to that place of relaxation at any moment that you choose. I would love to hear your questions, your thoughts, your feedback. Leave a comment below. If you're on Spotify, Facebook, wherever you're seeing this, leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. And again, if you're not already subscribed to the show, go to Spotify. That's the best place. Thanks for sharing a few minutes of your day. Sending you guys all my best. Have an amazing rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. Dive deeper at holisticalpha.com.